Everyone been arguing about coaches, quarterbacks, and chaos in Cleveland, but the most important thing said all offseason didn't come from a depth chart, a press release, or a leaked report. It came from one sentence that almost nobody stopped to unpack. Because while the spotlight was locked on firings and drama, Jimmy Haslam quietly told the truth about where the Cleveland Browns are actually headed. And once you hear it clearly, the entire Shedeur-Sanders conversation changes. Haslam didn't talk about schemes, he didn't promise wins, he didn't dodge with corporate fluff. Instead, he said the rookies this team drafted are the cornerstone of the future. Not placeholders, not trade chips, not we'll see how it goes projects. Cornerstone, that's long-term language, that's ownership-level language. And that's why this matters. Because when owners speak, they're not thinking about next Sunday. They're thinking about years, about identity, about business, about who the franchise is tied to moving forward. Coaches come and go, systems change, but owners don't casually attach their vision to players they don't believe in. That's where Shedeur-Sanders enters the picture. No matter what anyone says publicly, no other quarterback in this draft class carries his combination of visibility, attention, confidence, and upside. That's not hype, that's reality. And from a business and football standpoint, it's impossible to ignore. You don't watch a rookie handle chaos, pressure, and scrutiny the way Shedeur did and then treat him like an afterthought. Yet somehow, that's exactly how the conversation has gone. People argue about who should start, who should compete, who should be brought in. But almost nobody is asking the real question: why would ownership publicly frame this rookie class as the foundation if they weren't serious about the quarterback at the center of it? That's the line everyone missed. And once you start connecting that line to what happened next, who stayed, who got fired, and who suddenly has a clear path forward, it stops feeling like coincidence. It starts looking like a plan. When Jimmy Haslam speaks, it's different. Owners don't talk like coaches, they don't talk like GMs, they don't speak in game plans or weekly matchups, they speak in timelines, investments, and foundations. That's why his comment about the Browns' rookies quietly carried more weight than anything else said that day. Haslam didn't just praise the draft class, he didn't just say they were promising or exciting. He called them the cornerstone of the team, the group Cleveland plans to build, grow, and develop around. That's not casual phrasing, that's commitment language. And it matters who's included in that group. Because when you strip away the noise, the most important rookie in that class isn't a role player or a depth piece. It's Shedeur-Sanders. Quarterbacks aren't just players, they're anchors. Every franchise decision eventually bends around them. So when an owner publicly labels his rookie class as the foundation, the quarterback inside that class is automatically at the center of the plan. That's how the league works. Some people brush the comment off as generic owner talk, but Haslam didn't speak generically. He repeated himself, he emphasized character, he stressed that these rookies weren't just good players but really good people. That's important context. Cleveland has struggled for years not just with talent but with fit, with leadership, with players who could handle the pressure of being the guy in this market. Haslam knows that. That's why this comment feels intentional. Owners don't highlight character unless it's part of a larger reset. And Shedeur's entire rookie season played directly into that narrative, handling being benched without public complaints, staying professional through chaos, and stepping in when called upon without shrinking from the moment. This was Haslam defending a coach. This was Haslam hedging on the future. This was Haslam drawing a line under the players he believes in. And that's what makes this comment so revealing. Because if ownership truly believed the quarterback position was unsettled, unstable, or headed for a full reset, the language would have been cautious, temporary, non-committal. Instead, it was forward-looking, confident, grounded in long-term thinking. The Browns didn't say we'll see. They said we're building. And once you understand that, the rest of the offseason starts to look very different, because cornerstone players aren't meant to be rotated through. They're meant to be trusted. And that's exactly where this story starts to get interesting. If you really want to understand what Cleveland believes, don't listen to what they say. Look at who they kept and who they let go. When the dust settled, the most revealing move wasn't the firing itself, it was the contrast. Kevin Stefanski was out. Meanwhile, Andrew Barry, the man who personally drafted Shedeur-Sanders, stayed firmly in place. That wasn't coincidence, that was alignment. In the NFL, coaches are often the first to take the fall. But when an organization truly believes the roster construction failed, the GM usually goes with them. Cleveland didn't do that. Ownership made a clear decision about where the problem actually lived, and it wasn't in the draft room. Barry wasn't just retained, he was publicly defended. That matters because Barry's fingerprints are all over this rookie class, and more importantly, his evaluation of Shedeur is now protected. If ownership had doubts about that pick, this would have been the cleanest moment to reset everything. New coach, new GM, new direction. Instead, they kept the architect and removed the operator. That sends a message. It says the talent was there, the development was. Stefanski controlled reps. Stefanski controlled the depth chart. Stefanski decided how the quarterback competition played out. And for most of the season, Shedeur never truly got a fair runway. That wasn't a secret inside the building, and ownership clearly noticed. This move quietly shifts the power dynamic. By keeping Barry, the Browns signaled that they still believe in the players he chose, especially the quarterback. By firing Stefanski, they acknowledged that the environment may have been holding those players back. That's a rare admission for an NFL owner, and it doesn't happen unless confidence exists somewhere else. And that somewhere else is the roster. This wasn't about blaming one man, it was about clearing a path. Because heading into 2026, Cleveland needed alignment, front office, coaching staff, and quarterback pulling in the same direction. You can't evaluate a young quarterback honestly when the head coach doesn't fully buy in. Ownership fixed that. So while people debate whether Shedeur has officially been named the guy, they're missing the bigger picture. Teams don't protect GMs unless they believe in their vision. And Barry's vision included Shedeur Sanders as a developmental quarterback worth investing in. The coach who limited that vision is gone. The GM who drafted it remains. And in the NFL, that's one of the loudest statements an organization can make, even when it's never said out loud. When Andrew Barry finally spoke about Shedeur Sanders, it didn't sound like damage control. It didn't sound like a GM protecting his draft pick. It sounded like someone who had been watching closely and waiting. Barry said he saw a lot of progress from Shedeur this year. That line alone might seem harmless, standard, but the details he chose to highlight told a much bigger story. He didn't lead with arm talent. He didn't hype highlights. Instead, he focused on how Shedeur played the position. Pocket management, situational awareness, decision-making under pressure. Those are not buzzwords you casually assign to a rookie, especially one who didn't get consistent first-team reps, didn't have a stable offensive line, and didn't walk into a settled system. Those are traits front offices usually talk about when they believe a quarterback is processing the game at an NFL level. That's what made Barry's comments stand out. He specifically credited Shedeur for understanding game situations, navigating pressure, and extending plays without panicking. That's not about talent, that's about instincts. And instincts are what separate quarterbacks who flash from quarterbacks who last. Barry also acknowledged that Shedeur is still a work in progress. That part mattered too. It showed restraint, realism. He wasn't crowning him, he wasn't overselling him, he was evaluating him. And in the NFL, honest evaluation from a GM is far more meaningful than hype. Context matters here. Shedeur's rookie season didn't unfold in a clean environment. The offense lacked identity. Protection broke down often. Reps were inconsistent. Yet even inside that chaos, Barry still saw growth. That's important because front offices don't judge young quarterbacks by box scores, they judge them by how they respond when things go wrong. And according to Barry, Shedeur responded the right way. What also went unnoticed is when Barry said this. Not during the season, not while defending a coaching staff. He said it after changes were made, after accountability shifted, after the organization had a chance to reassess what it actually saw on film. That timing adds weight. This wasn't PR, this was a signal. A GM telling ownership, fans, and future coaches that the quarterback he drafted showed real, translatable traits even without ideal circumstances. Barry didn't say Shedeur was finished. He said Shedeur was developing. And in the NFL, development is everything. Because quarterbacks don't become franchise players when they're protected, they become franchise players when they survive instability and still show command. Barry saw that, and by saying it out loud, he quietly reframed the entire conversation. Shedeur wasn't failing. He was growing. And once that distinction is made, everything about Cleveland's next step starts to look very different. There's another layer to this story that rarely gets discussed openly because it makes people uncomfortable. Football people like to pretend every decision is purely about X's and O's, but at the ownership level, that's never the full picture, and Jimmy Haslam understands that better than most. This isn't about being flashy, it's about reality. From a business standpoint, quarterbacks aren't just players, they're ecosystems. They drive ticket sales, TV interest, jersey numbers, national relevance. And Shedeur Sanders exists in a different universe than most rookies when it comes to attention and visibility. That's not opinion, that's measurable. Even during a chaotic rookie season, Shedeur became one of the most talked about players on the roster. Clips circulated globally. Debates followed every snap. Fans who hadn't watched Browns football in years suddenly had a reason to tune in. That doesn't happen by accident, and owners notice it immediately. Now, to be clear, no one has officially said that business considerations are driving football decisions. But it's been said around the league that owners always factor long-term brand value into franchise quarterbacks. That doesn't mean talent takes a back seat. It means talent and relevance move together. And Shedeur checks both boxes. Haslam didn't become a billionaire by ignoring patterns. When he talks about cornerstone players, he's not just talking about locker rooms, he's talking about sustainability, about attaching the identity of the Cleveland Browns to players who can carry it forward on and off the field. That's why the just trade him talk never made much sense. From a business perspective alone, moving on from a quarterback with Shedeur's reach, name recognition, and upside would be illogical unless the football evaluation was overwhelmingly negative. And based on everything Bari and Haslam have said, it clearly was. What makes this angle powerful is how quietly it aligns with the football side. Shedeur didn't just bring attention, he handled it. He didn't melt under scrutiny. He didn't fracture the room. He absorbed pressure that would have broken most rookies and stayed composed. That combination is rare. So when ownership speaks about building around rookies who are really good people, it's not just about character. It's about trust. Trust that the face of the franchise can handle the weight that comes with it. This doesn't mean Cleveland is crowning anyone yet. It doesn't mean the job is being handed over without competition. But it does mean one thing is clear: from a business and football standpoint, Shedeur Sanders fits the future Cleveland is trying to build. And owners don't walk away from that lightly. Every time a team mentions exploring the quarterback market, fans panic. It sounds like uncertainty, like doubt, like a lack of faith. But in the NFL, that phrase almost never means what people think it means, and in Cleveland's case, it might actually mean the opposite. When Andrew Bari acknowledged that the Browns would evaluate the quarterback market, the reaction was immediate. Some fans read it as a red flag. Others took it as proof that Shedeur Sanders wasn't trusted. But league history tells a very different story. Front offices always say this, especially when they already have a young quarterback they like. It's leverage, it's protection. It keeps options open and prevents desperation from creeping into negotiations. If Cleveland publicly declared Shedeur the unquestioned starter right now, they'd lose flexibility overnight. Veteran quarterbacks would demand more, trade partners would gain leverage, agents would smell urgency. Smart teams don't do that. Instead, they speak cautiously. There's also the evaluation aspect. Young quarterbacks don't develop in a vacuum. They develop through competition, structure, and opportunity. Saying you'll explore the market doesn't mean you're replacing someone, it often means you're planning to support them. A veteran presence, a stabilizer, someone who raises the standard in the room without blocking the future. And this is where context matters. If Cleveland truly didn't believe in Shedeur, the messaging would look very different. The language would be colder, more distant. There'd be more smoke about draft picks, trade scenarios, and resets. Instead, the Browns paired this QB market talk with repeated praise for Shedeur's development, maturity, and progress. Those two things don't conflict, they complement each other. It's also worth noting when this was said, after a coaching change, after ownership reaffirmed belief in the rookie class, after Bari publicly backed his evaluation, this wasn't a panic response, it was procedural. Around the league, it's been said that teams with affordable rookie quarterbacks almost always bring in competition not to replace them but to clarify the hierarchy. And unlike last season, the difference now is opportunity. With a new staff coming in, the competition won't be pre-decided. It won't be tilted. It won't be symbolic. That's the key shift. So when you hear QB market, don't hear doubt. Hear strategy. Hear patience. Hear a front office refusing to corner itself publicly while quietly setting the table for a fair evaluation. Because teams that truly don't believe in their quarterback don't hedge, they move on fast. Cleveland didn't do that. They slowed down, widened the lens, and kept their options open, which is exactly what confident organizations do when they think they might already have their answer. So what does all of this actually point to for 2026? This is where we have to separate confirmed facts from what's being widely expected around the league and be honest about both. No one has officially named Shedeur Sanders the unquestioned starter going forward. That hasn't happened. But based on how the Browns are moving, it's been said that 2026 is shaping up to be the first season where Shedeur finally gets what he never truly had, a fair runway. According to league norms and similar situations, Cleveland will likely bring in a veteran quarterback. That's not a knock. That's standard operating procedure. Teams with young quarterbacks almost always add experience to stabilize the room, raise the bar, and protect against worst-case scenarios. Reports around the league suggest the Browns are expected to do the same. But here's the difference this time. The competition won't be symbolic, it won't be tilted, and it won't be pre-decided. With Kevin Stefanski gone, the biggest obstacle to an honest evaluation is out of the way. A new coaching staff won't be tied to old narratives or rigid hierarchies. They'll be incentivized to play whoever gives them the best chance to win, not whoever fits a preferred system or comfort level. That's massive. It's also why so many people believe Shedeur enters 2026 with a real edge. He'll have NFL reps, he'll have film, he'll have proof that he can survive chaos. Any veteran brought in will be learning a new building, new teammates, and a fan base that's already emotionally invested elsewhere. That matters more than teams admit publicly. There's also the financial angle. Shedeur is on a rookie contract. Affordable, flexible. That gives Cleveland Browns room to build around him: offensive line help, weapons, depth. It's been suggested that Cleveland wants to see what Shedeur looks like with actual support before making any irreversible decisions. And that's reasonable. This doesn't mean Cleveland is guaranteeing anything. It doesn't mean Shedeur is immune from pressure. But it does mean the environment is finally shifting from survival mode to evaluation mode, and that's the moment young quarterbacks either take control or fade out. For the first time, Shedeur won't be fighting the building just to get on the field. He'll be fighting for the job, and that's exactly what his supporters have been asking for all along. And if the speculation is even partially accurate, 2026 won't be about protecting Shedeur. It'll be about seeing if he's ready to take over. When you step back and connect everything, the picture becomes a lot clearer, even if the Browns haven't said the quiet part out loud yet. Ownership didn't accidentally use the word cornerstone. Jimmy Haslam didn't randomly emphasize character, long-term building, and belief in the rookie class. And Andrew Barry didn't publicly praise development traits that usually take years to earn unless he genuinely saw something worth investing in. None of this happened in isolation. At the same time, the coach who controlled the quarterback reps limited the opportunity and never fully embraced the rookie was removed. The GM who drafted him stayed. That's not subtle, that's organizational direction. The Cleveland Browns haven't crowned a franchise quarterback yet, and maybe they won't anytime soon, but franchises don't need to make declarations to show belief. They show it through alignment, through patience, through who they protect when things go wrong. And right now, everything is lining up in a way that benefits Shedeur Sanders. This doesn't mean his path will be easy. It doesn't mean the job will be handed to him. Cleveland will likely bring in competition. There will be pressure, expectations will rise fast, but that's the NFL. And the difference now is simple. For the first time, Shedeur won't be fighting the structure just to be evaluated fairly. That's the shift. For decades, this franchise searched desperately for answers at quarterback. First-round swings that missed, veteran stopgaps that fizzled, big moves made out of panic instead of clarity, and every time hope came with an expiration date. This moment feels different, not because of guarantees, but because of intent. Cleveland isn't rushing, they're not panicking. They're not erasing the past with another shortcut. They're letting a young quarterback develop, insulating him with belief from the top and resetting the environment around him. That's how real franchise quarterbacks are discovered, not forced. So while fans argue about depth charts, signings, and hypotheticals, the most important thing has already happened. The organization chose a direction. It chose development over fear, alignment over confusion, patience over desperation. Now the rest is simple but not easy. The Browns will finally find out if the quarterback they drafted can become the one they've been chasing for decades. And if Shedeur takes that next step, this offseason will be remembered as the moment Cleveland stopped guessing and started building.